Hello everyone and welcome to another incredible game from the FIDE World Rapid Championship that finished yesterday, but we still have a couple of games more to analyze. The Blitz section already started, but they're playing so fast, hundreds and hundreds of games are being played, so use that hashtag suggestion and I will definitely go over it. This is Jorden Foreest versus Viswanathan Anand, and I'm not gonna overhype anything or say that it's, like Levon Aronyan versus Viswanathan Anand, Tata Steel 2013, or the so-called Anand's Immortal game. It's not, and we're not supposed to do that when it comes to lower time formats. I think only classical games deserve to be in the Immortal area. That's why the title is sort of a as in the vicinity of immortality. But yeah, I mean, I had to announce that it was a really great game, as it really is. So let's check it out without any further ado. Jorden Foreest with white opens with pawn to e4. We have pawn to e5, and just in case you guys haven't seen Anand's Immortal, will be the first link in the description below, so you're welcome to check it out after this video. Knight to f3, we have knight to c6 and bishop to b5. Jorden goes for the Ruy Lopez. We have pawn to a6, Morphy's defense by Anand, bishop to a4, knight to f6, and pawn to d3. We have pawn to b5, attacking the bishop, bishop to b3, and bishop to c5. And a lot of you have recommended this game, but, as soon as I checked one line, I was, yes, of course, we have to show this. So pawn to c3, and this is where it already gets interesting. So d6 is a pretty standard move here, and pretty much everyone plays it. But I guess for a rapid game, and they're both, playing pretty much instantly, still above the 15-minute mark, Anand plays pawn to d5. And okay, it's a fairly rare move. Jorden captures it, e captures on d5, knight captures, and now castles kingside by both players. Okay, nothing weird happening here. Knight b to d2, and Anand strengthens the center with pawn to f6. Could be a little bit risky, as the king is now on the diagonal of the light square bishop, but of course after a4 we have bishop to a7, and now after knight to e4 and hides the king to h8. So king to h8, and now there is a game also interestingly that Anand played with the white pieces. He played against Matthias Blubaum last year or 2 years ago in Bundesliga, and Anand played pawn to d4 here, which is the top move recommended by the engine. Jorden goes rook to e1, which is the third move recommended by the engine, and it is now as of move 13 that we have a completely new game. So it's a position that's fine for both white and black. We have bishop to e6 by Anand, pawn to h3, and bishop to g8. So on e6 the bishop is undefended and looks a little bit weird, so on on g8 the bishop is looking very nice. Knight to g3. Now looking at that f5 and h5 square, maybe later on you can go after the black king. Pawn to b4, Anand strikes on the queen side, and bishop to d2. We have rook to b8 by Anand, bishop to c4, now putting pressure on that a6 pawn, and knight to a5, putting pressure on the bishop and inviting bishop captures on a6. Interestingly, Jorden does not capture on a6. There doesn't seem to be anything wrong with it. He was probably worried about something like knight to b3. It looks like a weird move, and maybe you have to give up the bishop pair, because if you capture with the queen, then b captures on c3, attacks the queen and the bishop, and maybe, complicates a little bit too much. And Anand is already up on time, so Jorden just brings the bishop back, bishop to a2. You know that the bishop cannot be bad on this diagonal. And now, pretty much everyone will play pawn to b3 here. You have to be a world champion not to play it. So pawn to c5. Anand keeps b3 as an option in the future. Knight to e4, and now again not pawn to b3, which everyone, including your uncle, would play. Anand plays b captures on c3. And interestingly, b3 is even the top one recommended by the engine, but I guess Anand decided with more time on the clock that this offers more in terms of combinations on the board. So b captures on c3 and pawn to c4. Anand gives up a pawn, and then Jorden will have a double c pawn that Anand can attack later on. So d captures on c4, knight to c7, so these are future targets, and pawn to c5, closes the dark square bishop. We have bishop captures on a2, rook captures on a2, and now queen to d5, again putting pressure on that c5 pawn. Pawn to c4, chasing away the queen, and now knight captures on c4. Okay, you give up one pawn, but you still have the passed c pawn. We have bishop to c3 and rook f to d8. Anand says, okay, if you want to trade, we can trade on d5. works for me, and Jorden should definitely do that. He should capture, and okay, the game continues. Nothing wrong here. Or you can even capture with the knight. However, after rook f to d8, Jorden played queen to e2, and this is where things start to go very, very wrong for him. Anand plays knight to e6. So what is the plan here? He wants to go knight to f4, plus he's putting additional pressure on that c5 pawn, so he can capture it whenever he wants. Jorden says, all right, I'm going to stop your knight f4 idea. I'm going to go knight f to d2. Now if you go knight to f4, I can just capture on c4, so that's not going to work. But Anand figures out that there's something wrong with Jordan's last move, and he plays... you could even pause the video, but I'm pretty sure you guys know what he plays. Again, I cannot stop you from pausing the video. You can stop the video whenever you want, even on every move. But he played knight to e3. And it looks like a pretty weird move, but the rook here is now undefended due to Jordan's last move, knight f to d2, prevents the queen from reaching that rook on a2. So okay, we have rook to b2. Of course, you're not just going to capture the knight and give up the rook. And now Anand plays rook captures on b2, bishop captures on b2, and now look at this, knight captures on g2. Very unfortunate positioning of the white queen, because if king captures, then knight to f4 check picks up the queen on e2. But okay, it's not a problem. Rook to c1. Jorden even wants to have a rook behind the passed pawn, but now Anand just goes back. Knight g to f4, attacks the queen, and queen captures on a6. Probably he was expecting queen to c4 to add more support to that c5 pawn, but Jorden went for queen captures on a6. He's going to give up the c5 pawn, but he's going to have a passed a pawn, which is sometimes even better. So okay, Anand plays knight captures on c5, and here the problem is you can't go for queen captures on a7. Even though material-wise you're fine, but after queen captures on a7, look at this. Knight captures on e4, knight captures, queen captures, and there's nothing you can do here. You're just getting checkmated here. Whatever you do simply will not work. If pawn to f3, you don't even have to capture. You can just go for queen to g6 with check. And if king to f1, just queen to g2 check. And of course, king e1, queen to e2 will be checkmate. The white queen is doing nothing, controlling those dark squares. So that's the problem. Even though material-wise, like I said, you're fine. So queen to c4 by Jorden, offering a queen trade, and Anand says, no thank you, I'm just going to control this diagonal. And you don't really worry about that knight on c5, as the knight on d2 would also hang. But even worse, if you capture on c5, queen to g2 is just checkmate. Let's not forget about our good friend the knight on f4. So here we have bishop to a3, putting more pressure on that c5 knight. And here Anand played a move which made Jorden resign on the spot, but it is, the explanation of the move that is just remarkable. So here Anand played knight to d3, and he was in this position on move 33 that Jorden Foreest resigned the game, as there is nothing more to be done here. So what's the problem? The problem is, okay, for one, the rook is attacked. Another threat, the pawn on f2 is attacked. But that's not your biggest concern. So let's say you just play rook to b1. What's the problem here? Can we do rook b1? Well, not really, because now you get knight captures on f2. And okay, there's a bishop here, and you can't really capture with the knight, because then, again, you have the problem of this and also the problem of this. So the knight on e4 can never move. If you play bishop to c5, which looks like a very good idea, then comes bishop captures on c5, and after queen captures, now you get knight captures on e4, and after knight captures on e4, queen captures on e4, and again, there is no defense here. Yes, you're down 2 pawns material-wise, but and also down a knight, but you're also just getting checkmated. So there's no point in doing that. If rook to b2, it's a very quick checkmate. Rook d1 check, king h2, queen h1 check, king g3, queen captures with check, king f2, and now rook to f1 or any other checkmate on the board. So after knight c to d3, you can't really just move the rook. Another thing that you could do, you might play something else. Is there anything else you could do? Well, the most interesting move here is that you could play rook to f1. And this is just incredible what happens here. If rook to f1, then knight captures on f2. And again, okay, we cannot move that knight. We're going to get checkmated. But why can't we just give up a little bit of material to survive the attack? Well, here comes rook captures on d2. And now, again, you cannot capture. And even worse, if you go bishop to c5, which seems like, okay, now you're countering everything. Now comes the bishop, captures on c5, and again, you cannot capture. This will be checkmate in all of the lines. Here, okay, knight captures can actually move because the rook is now guarding against checkmate. But still, it's going to be just a rook d1 check, and that's it. King to h2, queen to h1 with check, king to g3, and now queen captures will be checkmate. So you cannot do that, and yeah, other than that, after bishop captures on c5, there's really not much you can do. If queen captures on c5, now you just throw in a nice rook captures on f2, and that's pretty much it. There's nothing that you can do here. Now, if knight captures, again, queen to g2 is checkmate. If the king captures, look at this, knight to d3 forks the king and the queen, and yeah, that's pretty much it. Even queen captures on f2. There's that, but then knight captures on h3, forks the king and the queen. So this knight on f4 in combination with the queen on this diagonal controls the entire game, and Jorden was unable to do anything about it. So yeah, like I said, not truly what we would say an immortal game. You know, as I only think classical games can be immortal games, but definitely a nice game to show. And I think it was perhaps not the nicest, but you know, definitely in the top 10 that were played in the entire World Rapid Team Championship. So yeah, that's the game. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Again, Anand just showing us how it's done. You know, obliterating an incredible player. You know, he was. I mean, over 2,700 in classical chess. Did a lot of work with Magnus Carlsen in 2021. So we all know Jorden. He's an incredible player. Even defeated Nishigiri in that final of Tata Steel. He won Tata Steel. I mean, truly an impressive guy. But yeah, you know, Anand just showing class and doing this with the black pieces. So yeah, if you enjoyed this and you haven't seen Anand's Immortal, or it's been some time since last you've seen it, first link in the description below. You know, why not improve your day even further? That's the game. Hope you guys enjoyed it. I would like to thank Obakeng Rafaela, Norman Duda, Justin and Olaf Love Chess, Mohammed Babar Khalil, and Terry Walters for a contribution to my channel. Thank you a lot. I really appreciate it. As usual, you can check 2 of my previous videos here. Thank you all for watching, and I will see you soon, continuing to check up on your wonderful suggestions such as this one and whatever else happens in the chess world. Thank you all. I will see you soon, and have an excellent rest of your day. And do use that hashtag suggestion for Blitz games, as there are so many of them being played. You know, if you see a nice one, let's all enjoy it. See you soon.